Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's program, a look at Trevor Lawrence's massive extension and the impact it might have on your Houston Texans. Also, Miami signed my favorite free agent left on the market. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And kind of leading into our third subject of the day is, what is the Texans' biggest weakness left on their roster? Kind of goes into who Miami signed. But before we get started on today's program, I was chirping back and forth on Twitter last night with Jags fans, kind of razzing them about the Lawrence deal, and they're telling me, oh, well, Lawrence is going to be better than Stroud in 2024. Are you serious? Are you serious right now, Jags fans? I mean, I get it, you're trying to defend your guy, but you think he's going to be better than Stroud this season after the rookie year that Stroud just put on? You're playing yourself. And if you agree with me, if you think Stroud's going to be better than Lawrence this season, go down and like the video, hit that thumbs up icon. I mean, I just can't believe how delusional some Jags fans are about Trevor Lawrence. I know he's been okay, and the wide receiver room has been kind of mismatched during his time there, but to say that he's going to be better than Stroud this year, that's just fool's gold in my opinion. If you agree with me, go down and hit that like button. As we get into today's program, Ian Rappaport came with the news yesterday. The Jaguars, they reached a deal with Trevor Lawrence, $275 million, $55 million a year, $200 million guaranteed. I mean, absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. That makes Trevor Lawrence the highest paid quarterback per year, tied with Joe Burrow at $55 million a year. As we see the other top 10, it goes Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes tied at 8 with Kirk Cousins. I mean, how lucky are the Chiefs right now? They have arguably the best quarterback in football, and he's the 8th highest paid guy in the NFL. Absolutely ridiculous. But going back to Trevor Lawrence, as we look at his career stats, I mean, nothing crazy. I mean, 2021, his rookie year, 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. He bounced back in 2022, had 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 66.3 completion percentage. And then last year, kind of looked like he kind of took a little step back again. 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions in 2023. And I mean, as we look at the career stats from Gardner Minshew to Trevor Lawrence, I showed it on the show before. It's eerily similar between these two guys, and that is concerning, in my opinion, if you're telling me that this guy right now is getting paid the highest amount per year in the NFL, and Gardner Minshew just signed, a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. So, yeah, I think this might have been a bad idea for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they were trying to get ahead of the curve and not pay him as much as some of the other guys coming up for contracts. But at the end of the day, I think the Jags should have wrote out his contract, given him the franchise tag, and seen what they had in him, because I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to even come close to being worth that kind of money. So let me know what you think, though. Did the Jaguars make a mistake in extending Trevor Lawrence? Let me know yes or no down in the comment section. Let me know your reasoning why you're saying yes or no. I think it was a mistake. I think they should have at least waited a little bit, even though in the long run it might have cost them a little bit more money. I just am not completely sold on Trevor Lawrence as a franchise quarterback, as a top 10 quarterback. That's why I'd be typing my no. But, I mean, this is Texans Today. We got to talk about what this means for our team, and what does this mean for one C.J. Stroud? Yeah, going into his second season of his rookie deal. Obviously, he was a rookie last season, and the NFL rules are you can't get an extension until after your third season. So CJ won't be up for a contract next offseason, but the offseason after that. And the question now goes to, what will his contract look like whenever it's time for CJ Stroud to get a new deal? Whenever it's, his chance to really cash in with the Houston Texans? That's going to be a big question mark, and I think the answer is going to lie somewhere with these next 3 guys that are up. Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jordan Love. All up for new contracts, all up for contract extensions, all of them, playing for their teams this season. I don't know whether or not they top that next deal. I think they will. I think Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love will be above that $55 million a year mark, maybe even flirting with the $60 million a year mark. But I'll tell you this, with the rising, cap, with how well CJ Stroud has been playing, we're looking at around $65 to $70 million a year, in my opinion, whenever it gets time to extend CJ Stroud. If he continues his ascension, if he continues his play from 2023, I mean, look at these stats in 15 games played. 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 100.8 quarterback rating, over 4,000 yards, almost 64% completion percentage, and his advanced analytics look even better. An adjusted completion percentage of 73.9. 2.9% of his plays were turnover-worthy plays, which is extremely low. His average depth of target, 9.4 yards per completion. His big-time throw percentage, 4.3, which is pretty high, and his pressure to sack percentage at 19.6. CJ Stroud is an ascending superstar in the NFL. And that's why I've been preaching all offseason. The time is now. This is why the Texans need to be all in for the next 2 years with Stroud on a rookie deal. They need to make the most of while they're paying him pennies on the dollar for what he's worth. They need to really stack this team as best they can the next 2 seasons. Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans need to push all their chips into the center of the table, because this is the best time for the Texans to make it to the Super Bowl these next 2 seasons while they're paying Stroud a ridiculous amount of money for how good he actually is. Now, if you want a CJ Stroud jersey, I got you covered. Go to chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. Our friends over at Fanatics have all of the new Texans jerseys available. Now, I do have to say, some of them are sold out in certain sizes, so I would go check right now and see what are available so you can try to get it in before the start of training camp, preseason, and the regular season. But I know they have all 4 on the website right now. You can go check it out. Once again, that link, chatsports.com/Texans jerseys, is going to be in the comment section and description of today's video. Go check it out. They also have, I believe they have the Stitch jerseys, which is kind of like the more old-timey ones, if you remember, because I know these are the kind of pressed-on ones. If you want the stitched ones, they're a little bit more expensive, but go check them all out at the link down below today. Now, as we're getting into some more NFL news, the Dolphins signed my favorite free agent in Calais Campbell, which is really upsetting because I have been really preaching that the Texans should sign Campbell since, after the draft, after I kind of saw what the Texans did in free agency in the draft. I really wish they were able to snag Campbell, because he would be an amazing addition to this defensive line depth chart. He would really bring some depth to that defensive tackle, defensive end room for the Houston Texans, because honestly, I am worried about the defensive tackle room. You brought in Denico Autry, Foley Fatukasi, Tim Settle, but are we 100% sure that this defensive tackle room is good to go for this season, especially with what the Texans had last year in their defensive tackle room? Should we be worried? Should we be worried about this room? Because they brought in Denico Autry, which, yes, underrated signing, really good at getting after the passer, but does that help one of the biggest needs on the Texans defense last year, which I've been saying again and again was stopping the run? They brought in Foley Fatukasi, which he's a good run defender, but that's one defensive tackle. Who else do you have on your roster? I mean, you have, Khalil Davis, if he makes the roster, Kurt Henish, Tim Settle. That doesn't give me a ton of confidence in this depth chart, in this depth in the defensive tackle room, because those big guys, they like to sub in and out during the game. So some of those second, third stringers might get some more run than other positions will for their second and third strings. So defensive tackle was a big area of weakness that I really thought the Texans should address this offseason. Like I said, they got guys like Denico Autry, Foley Fatukasi, but are we sure that is good enough to shore up the middle of this defense? And the problem now lies with the Texans is that there's really nothing for them to do at this point. They got to ride it out with who they have, because these are the defensive tackles that are free agents at the moment. You have Hassan Ridgeway, who played for the Texans last year, was injured basically the entire season. Linval Joseph, who's getting up there in age and whose production has steadily declined over the past 3 years. Mike Purcell, Tyson Alualu, and Lawrence Guy, who were rotational guys last year and really didn't get much burn, much run, and who are also up there in age in their high 30s. So there's not really any other free agents that really inspire me that the Texans should go out and get that can really help this defense right now. And if you're looking towards the future, maybe you go after a big trade for Jonathan Allen, who could possibly be a trade target. I know the Commanders, they paid his running mate, Daron Payne, on the interior. He's wanting a new contract. He has 2 years left on his deal. Not like thrilled in Washington. So if they start out slow, maybe that could be a trade target. But that's a lot of hoping, if your defensive tackle room is not looking good, that the Commanders are even willing to trade Jonathan Allen. So at this point, I really hope Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans know what they're doing, know what they're talking about with this defensive tackle room, because I'm a little bit worried about stopping the run this year. That's what really hurt this Texans team last year against the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. And I hope that Denico Autry, Foley Fatukasi more so, because he was really brought in to be that run stuffer up the middle. I really hope those guys show out and prove us all that DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caserio absolutely know what they're doing. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. As always, you can hit me up on Twitter. Talk more Texans ball over at Jeremy Chugs. That's where you can find me. My DMs are always open. And as always, go down and hit that sub button for daily Texans news and rumors content for free. We're one of the best Texans channels here on YouTube, for good reason, because we have great viewers like you. So if you want to continue the dialogue, continue this awesome community of Texans fans that we have here, go down, hit that sub button, or go to youtube.com/TexansTV.